Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for week 7 of Journaling on a Budget Starting Over. Today we are going to make a writing/pressing board. These are great to have in your book as you're working, and then later on as you want to journal in your book, or if you give it to someone as they want to journal in it. It makes your pages more sturdy to write on or to press things onto. So what we're going to do to start with, I like to make my pressing board the size of my cover, just a little bit shorter in width than the width of the cover, or exactly that width. But I definitely like it the same up and down because it's going to slide into the back of our journal. And then there's also sometimes when I put them in the middle of my journal, and that is something that that we may do at a later date, and I'll show you how I kind of like change them a little bit. But for today, we're just going to make the board itself. So my book is 5.5, or my cover is 5.5 inches by 8 3/4. So I just have a piece of cardboard here. I think it came out of the back of like an 8 by 10 frame. So I need 5.5 inches wide by, I think that was that 8 3/4 long? Let me just double check that. Yes, 8 3/4 by 5.5. Alrighty, so I'm going to need to get my 8 3/4 out of the length of my cardboard. So I want that to be 8 3/4. This is going to be 5.5. So I'm going to do the 8 3/4 first, but I'll need to use my marker because my this trimmer does not go out any further than 5. So 8 3/4. I just need to mark it in one spot because I'm not going to cut it by hand. I'm going to use the trimmer. So 8 3/4 is right there. So I just need the one marker saying I don't need to draw a line because I'm not going to cut it with my scissors. So I'm just going to line that right up, making sure that you have yourself straight across your pressing part of your cutter. And then just give that a cut, set that aside. That would make a nice marker or something like that too. So let's set that aside. And then we need 5 3/4, which I'm also going to have to mark. No, 5.5. And that I don't think I have to mark. I put my own marks on here. So I think that 5.5 is right about there. And it's okay if it's going to be just, I'm going to make it just a little shorter. And there we go. So now we have our board for our pressing board. Now, if you want to, you can just take the board and put it in there, just in your book, just like that. I have my book upside down. You can just take it and put it in your book just like that, and now it's always there. But you know, that's not very fun, so let's do something with it. First off, let's check and see. And see, now our board is pretty much, it's exactly the length, and we've got just a little touch of the border of the cover sticking out. So this is what we're going to use. Let's say we wanted to, we've got something a little bit bumpy here, and we want to write on this page here. These boards are to put in your book like this so that you can write. Now you have a really hard surface to write on. Let's say that you're working on this page and you want to doodle on it. You know, as you're making the book, that's there. You have that so that you can doodle and you get a nice, you know, firm surface to doodle on. So, and then if you want to, let's say you're going to glue something on here and you want to press it down well. Maybe it's even something that you think I need to set something on there till it dries. You put your pressing board in there, and that just makes it so that you can press that glue down, or you can hold it down until it dries, and then you just take your pressing board out and you put it back in the back of your book. So we're just going to, now that we have it, now it's like, okay, well, now what do I do with it? We're going to decorate it just for the heck of it. And I had found this paper that I was using for something else, and it was just sitting here, and I thought, well, it really looks nice with this page right here. And since I'm going to, at this point in time, stick it in the back of my book, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use this paper to just cover. The thing is that yes, we're going to decorate it, but you don't want to make it all bumpy and lumpy. That's the whole point of having it. So I just don't want it to look like a just plain old piece of cardboard. I am also only going to decorate one side. I normally leave one side cardboard, and then I decorate the other side. And the side that I decorate is the side that I set up, and the side that I don't decorate, that's normally the side that I write on. But if you have a nice flat way of decorating it, you don't have to. You can decorate it all the way around. Just make sure you don't make it lumpy. So to start with, I am just going to, I'm not going to cut the paper until after I glue it on, because then I can just kind of cut around the edges and get a better I don't have to worry about trying to line it up exactly once I cut it out and it's only the perfect size of my cardboard. Now, I always used to go through and just like rub that all over, but now pretty much kind of what I do is I just grab the edges, or you can do the whole thing. It doesn't really matter. I don't like to leave the big lumps of glue in there because I'm afraid it's going to get on my paper. But just spread your glue around. And then the one thing that this does work really nice instead of using your fingers. So I've been watching people do that, and it's like, oh, that's a good idea. And so I'm going to not really worry about getting it on the edge. I'm going to waste some. I'm going to press that down. But this is the one thing I think is really a good idea that I've seen people doing. This is just an old card, but they take a credit card, debit card, you know, whatever. This is a gift card, a hotel key, one of these nice heavy plastic things, and they just kind of give it a press. It does two things. It flattens out that glue, and it really gives you really good contact everywhere. And if you have too much glue on there, it kind of squashes it out the edges. So that's why I think this is a really good idea, especially when you're doing a larger piece like that, to spread that around. So now, normally I would just set this aside and let it dry for a little bit. But for the sake of time, we're going to just keep right on going, except... Hold on, I need to just grab a paper towel. And I stuck it in my coffee because I don't have any water here. I had water here, but then in my water bottle, I stuck coffee in there too because I was coffee dyeing some paper. So I would rather have a little coffee on my project than glue. Alrighty. Now, what I really want to do is, because it squashed the glue right out the edges there. So because I'm going to cut it, I want to kind of wipe that off so that I don't get my scissors too gluey. And if your scissors get really bad, you can clean them. What I find works really well is rubbing alcohol and hand sanitizer, which is mostly rubbing alcohol. So somebody had mentioned that the other day, and it was like, oh, I actually do that, but I never think to tell people that. I always say rubbing alcohol, but yes, now everybody's got hand sanitizer. Well, kind of. So that's great for cleaning the sticky off of your scissors also. So I'm just going to trim this around, and then we'll have a nice board. Now, when I'm done with this, because I put glue all over the whole thing, it is going to want to warp. Being that this is a writing board and a pressing board, we really don't want it to warp. So what I will be doing with this when I am done is I'm going to stick it in my atlas. I have a big atlas that I put parchment paper in, and then I use that to dry things that I definitely want to dry flat. I did not do a very good job here. There we go. And so now there's our pressing board. Now it's got paper, and like I said, you don't want to make it bumpy, so you do have to be careful about that. But there was one thing, I really wanted to use this because I just got them and I just really love them. So I just want to take just a little bit of this and put it in the middle, just because I think it's pretty. And where's my masking tape? It's probably sitting right in front of me. This was sitting right on the table, and I searched all over, even went to 2 different rooms looking for it. Then I came back to the table, and sure enough, there it was, and I had already looked. Well, oh, that doesn't work. Somebody once said, put your lips on it, and then when you part your lips, it will open. You just need a little bit of tape to separate these 2 pieces. Well, we're going to see how hard it is to separate napkins without the tape. It's doable. There we go. We got it. Thank goodness it's only a 2-ply napkin, so I only have to take this 1 extra piece off. That actually was pretty easy, easier than a lot of times when I've tried doing it that way. There we go. Okay, so I don't know that I even want the bottom. I think I just want, well, the bottom kind of draws it in. I'm going to rip it. I'm just going to tear it. Whoops. I want to go just around the tail, and I really want those air bubbles in there because I think that they're kind of cute. And then we'll just see how far over we come as to how much is going to fit on there width-wise. Okay, so let's, and I might leave just a little bit of those scales on the bottom. Well, it wants to rip right there, so it really doesn't want to leave those there. I was trying to go down further, but I really couldn't quite get it to. Don't like that sharp corner there. See, without those or with. And they look nice, but I think I want to just straighten this up a bit. And that's always, you know, just like personal choice. I do have a bit of a problem with, I like things to kind of be a little bit symmetrical, and really sometimes in arting that's not the best thing. But for this one I didn't like what it was doing. So I'm going to put it just a little bit low because at the top I have a stamp that I want to stamp, and I'm going to do that right away. I'm going to stamp it in purple. Just Dream. I just like that. And again, stamps are another good thing to use on these boards because it doesn't give any kind of bulk or any kind of bumpiness or anything. So I'm going to put this right there. Ooh, I think I might have moved it. Now, the thing about when you're stamping things, it's not about how hard you press it. It's not about like rocking it or whatever. It's more about just holding it down, giving the stamp enough time to make contact with the paper and the paper to suck that ink off of the stamp. A lot of times if you get a really light stamp, the reason that you're getting it is because you just didn't let the ink sit there long enough. Sometimes you didn't have enough ink on your stamp, but just leave it there long enough. And then I think I want to put some corners. This is just a corner stamp that I made. This is a piece of fun foam cut into a triangle, and then I just drew on it with a pen to make dents in the fun foam so that those areas don't show up. These are very mixed media. you know, they're not perfect, and as far as like the way that they stamp does not always, you know, you get a little missed spots here and there on most of them, but that's okay. That's kind of what I like, but I do want to just get this right in the corner as best I can. Got off a little bit. Give it a second to soak in. Yeah, see, I like that. But I just thought, you know, it's kind of nice to have something that's just not so plain. I didn't really feel like doodling on it, but doodling on them is another good way to decorate them up. And anything that's really flat, you don't want layers and layers of paper, even though paper's flat, because the more that you layer it, the bumpier it gets. And really, the napkin itself is pretty much like, even it is a little bit possibly bumpy. But because I usually use the backside to write with, you know, it's not that big of a deal, and it's not bumpy enough that it's going to make that backside have a problem, you know, like kind of have a lump in it or something. Alrighty, and I got that one a little bit off, a little bit too high, but that's okay. And get this last corner. And this is just fun foam glued to a cereal box. And then you put masking tape on the back for a handle. And you can make all sorts of wonderful, wonderful individual. Those are your own. Nobody will have one like it, even if they try. Even if you try, you won't have another one like it. But I love using my own stamps because then it just, you know, there's a place for everything. I love the one that I have from the store. That dream is really pretty, and I like the way that this is looking so far. But now I'm looking at this and thinking it's just kind of too big and bold. It's not quite the right color purple, but I'm going to do it anyways because I want it. But I think I'm going to bring it down a little bit. I think it's just too big, so I'm going to make it smaller and see what I think. So I would like at least a little bit of that foliage at the bottom. I don't think I want to really get too much closer to the side of the tail because you want to be able to see it. There, I like that. I definitely like that better. The rest, it was just a little too distracting. So, and now I'm going to put it on with water glue. Say it every time. Water glue is 2 parts white glue, or PVA glue, Elmer's glue, to 1 part water. And the reason that I get this ring around the edge of glue is because when I'm done with this, I will shake that whole thing. It'll get glue up there, and it will dry like that. And that will keep your glue good for a really long time. It won't dry out if you seal that edge, and that's how you do it. Alrighty, so I'm just going to kind of look at the area where this is going to be. And I'm going to glue it down, and then I am going to put the water glue over the whole thing. This is permanent marker, so it permanent ink pad, so it should not move. That was Stays On purple, royal purple. Now, in this case, normally I don't mind the wrinkles, but in this case, I really do want it to be fairly flat. So I'm going to try and be careful putting it down. Because it's dry, I can press it a little bit with my finger, a little bit being the key word. There we go. And now, just going to get some glue on top. I always, whenever I Mod Podge or decoupage anything, I always put it underneath and on top so that you have a really good hold. It's not going to release and come off. And I'm just going to seal the whole thing. And this is any of your permanent glue or permanent ink pads are solvent based normally, and then you have your water based ones that will move with water, but your permanent ones, they will only move usually with solvent. So that's why they're permanent. They're not going to move if you put water or some kind of a water-based product on top of them. So there we go. I've done the whole thing, and I'm finding that this is, to my liking, a little bit too wrinkled, so I'm going to put a little bit of the water glue on my hand, and carefully, don't be too rough, just kind of massage it out, making sure that your finger stays wet with the glue. If your finger starts getting a little bit tacky or sticky or a little bit dry, you need to get more glue, because otherwise you're going to rip your napkin. So I'm going to get just a little bit more. And it was just really quite wrinkly, so I don't want to leave those wrinkles in there. And you just kind of go from center out, because basically you want to move that napkin a little bit to get those wrinkles out of it. You can't just totally push them down. And that feels much smoother. It's not going to be perfectly smooth because it's a napkin, but definitely smooth enough. And there we go. Just brush off the little bit of extra that I have there. And there. That is our writing and pressing board to put in our book. That's going to go in the back of our journal, and now it will be there whenever we need it to press something or to doodle in our book or something like that. So that's going to wind up going, for now, right here in the back of our book. So I'm going to let this dry just a little bit because I have the water glue on it. And once that is a little bit dry, I am going to stick it in a piece of parchment paper and then stick it in a heavy book and let it sit overnight. And then tomorrow it'll be ready for me to stick it back in my journal and have it there in case we need it. So thank you very much for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. I hope that you enjoyed this video on making a pressing board. So I really do appreciate each and every one of you stopping by. Thank you so much. And I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.